Dude, are you okay?
And in today's episode, we'll see a group of friends face an evil clown that comes back every 27 years. The story starts 27 years ago when a boy named Barney leaves home on a rainy day with a paper boat. He puts the boat in the water and it floats to a drain. When the boat falls in, Barney looks to see if he can get it, but a voice starts talking to him. Then, a clown appears and introduces himself to Barney. After the clown says Barney just needs to reach out to get his boat, Barney does, but the clown grabs his arm and pulls him into the drain.
Just reach in and take it.
In the next scene, we see Barney's dad with a poster of his missing son. He decides to put it on his city bulletin board with all the other missing kids, hoping his son will be found one day. But he overhears a couple talking about the missing kids who have never been found, which makes him sad. He leaves on his bike, but as he crosses a bridge, a branch appears out of nowhere and hits his tire, making him fall. Then some bullies show up and start threatening him. But Simpson sees the clown and when he mentions the clown, he distracts the bullies and manages to escape.
Creepy clown! Go get help!
He rides down a hill and the bullies chase him. But soon other kids show up and start fighting the bullies. When Carl decides to call for heavier backup, Marge shows up and hits one of the bullies in the nose with a ball, then helps Homer. Marge starts talking to Homer about his injury. Then, the kids introduce themselves as the town nerds and say they are part of a club called the Losers. When Homer's nose starts bleeding, Marge says they have a first aid kit at their clubhouse, and they all go there. But before Homer goes down, the comic book guy tells him Marge was his secret love, but she already knew and tells Homer to find another secret love. Inside the clubhouse, Marge takes care of Homer while Carl talks. Homer reveals he saw an evil clown, and Marge says she also saw him while doing her nails in the bath. The clown appeared in her mirror and filled the bathroom with water, almost drowning her. But her sisters saved her, and when they opened the bathroom door, the water spilled out.
Little seltzer.
Next, it's Moe's turn to say he also saw the clown. For him, the clown appeared as a ventriloquist dummy, following him and saying he had dated his mom, implying they had been intimate.
I went on a date with your mother last night.
Now it's Carl's turn to share. When he was reading his book, the clown appeared as an octopus on his ceiling, spitting strange green liquid everywhere. Finally, Eddie tells how the clown appeared as his grandma's corpse in a bathtub full of worms. Homer then says he believes the clown is responsible for the missing kids, and Marge says they need to do something about it. But to do that, they would have to face their worst nightmare, doing homework. They all go to a library to look up some files about the issue. While reading, Homer writes some notes to Marge saying he likes her and signs them as a secret admirer. He puts the note in her backpack.
Army Summer Lightning, your bravery the storm. Like a chip at the zoo, I'm bananas for you.
Then Marge runs to him to show some information she found. Next, they all gather in a garage, and Marge explains that the clown has been hiding in Kingfield all this time. She shows a film about the clown Crusto, and then Homer shows a book about Crusto's shows. Even though he did many shows, he was never funny. Marge says he reappears every 27 years. Suddenly, the clown comes out of the TV, becoming real. He tries to grab one of them, and Eddie becomes his victim. The clown says he never feels guilty when taking a chubby kid. As the clown is about to eat Eddie, Marge throws pliers to Homer, and he stabs the clown in the throat. But this only makes the clown angrier, and he threatens everyone there. Marge solves the problem by unplugging the TV, which weakens the clown. Moe has a panic attack, and Marge says they were able to hurt the clown. Homer says that means they can defeat him. They start packing their backpacks to go after the clown. During this, Eddie finds Homer's note in Marge's backpack and realizes it could make Marge fall for him. They all go to Crusto's show house. Inside, they find a box of treats, and Homer is the first one to open it. As Homer goes to the box, the clown jumps out and attacks them. They all use their weapons against Crusto, but nothing works. When the clown says he's invincible, he steps on some marbles, slips, and falls between cannons, hitting his face on the wall and falling hard on the ground. Then a vase falls on his head, and everyone laughs, surprising the clown who had never heard laughter at his shows.
Go!
The clown starts doing things to hurt himself just to make everyone laugh. While he destroys himself, Marge gives him a box of bombs to eat. He eats them and starts falling apart, ending up back in the drain. Before celebrating, they all make a pact that if the clown returns, it will come together to finish the job. No matter where they are, they all jump into the water, except the comic book guy, who is a bit scared. Marge encourages him with a kiss on the cheek and says she saw the poem he wrote for her. She asks him to stay with her because she wants the man who wrote that poem to be her first love. Homer sees this while in the water and tells his friends that his life is over because it's not right. But Carl tells him to calm down because he still has his whole life ahead of him.
I want my first love to be the boy who wrote those words.
Wait, by that you mean me, of course.
So 27 years have passed, and now the bullies are walking down the street in Kingfield. They notice a new bakery that suddenly appeared, and Jimbo suggests scaring the adults to get the pies. But as he starts talking through the window, a pie hits him, messing up his face. His friends are completely scared by this, and then the clown goes after Nelson.
Dude, are you okay?
At Homer's bar, everyone is watching a strange news report about the attack on the kids. Homer can't believe the clown is back, but when he looks at his watch, he realizes it's been 27 years. He decides to tell his friends what's happening. Moe is the first to be told after a rock show he did, then Carl, coming out of his spaceship, and next Marge gets the news. The conversation with Homer takes a bit longer, and she isn't sure if she can join the others since she has many responsibilities now. We see Marge's kids in this reality, and the kids find a card from Homer Simpson. When they ask who it is, their dad, the comic book guy, explains it's a childhood friend, but they would never go back to their hometown. Later, Marge and the comic book guy argue about helping Homer. When he sleeps, the comic book guy dreams about the clown, and when he wakes up to tell his wife about the dream, he finds a note saying she went to help her childhood friends.
The same little coward you always were!
At Homer's bar, everyone is gathered and toasts to their reunion. After some talk, Marge reveals that whenever she needs courage, she reads the poem the comic book guy wrote for her as a child. Hearing this, Homer is stunned and decides to tell Marge something. But before he can, her kids show up and interrupt the conversation between her and the comic book guy. Marge asks the kids to leave because she needs to talk privately with Homer. Meanwhile, the kids walk around the city and find everything strange. While Lizzie is walking and complaining, her brother stops in front of a TV. When she asks what it is, she is also amazed. Back at the bar, the comic book guy reminds everyone that they only escaped the clown because they were lucky. But while he's talking, they all get a call on their phones from the clown, who tells them not to leave the city and to come see his new attraction. He shows Marge and the comic book guy's kids trapped in a cage.
Not without seeing my new star attraction.
Help, Mom! Dad!
They all start walking through the sewer until they find the clown's lair and the cage with the kids. When Marge tries to get close to the cage, the clown stops her with fire and then shows the laughs of all the people he has captured. At this moment, Homer says he's not afraid of him, and everyone there has already overcome their childhood fears. But the clown reminds them that adults have something worse than kids, anxiety. So, he starts making their anxieties come true. But when he gets to the comic book guy, the clown says it's time to reveal something very important, that he only signed the poem that won Marge over. When she finds out, she starts saying her whole life was a lie. All these things only make the clown stronger. Then, from above, the boy shouts that they need to destroy the laughing sign. Quickly, Homer grabs a rock and asks Marge to throw it because only she is strong enough. Meanwhile, she discovers it was Homer who wrote the poem. As she gets ready to throw the rock, the clown attacks her, and the comic book guy steps in to save her. This allows her to destroy the sign, and all their feared ghosts start to disappear. The souls the clown captured with the laughs are freed, and then the clown himself starts to destroy because he has no more laughs to feed on, until he finally disappears for good. Then, Marge checks on the comic book guy when he asks if his heroic act made up for all the years he lied to her. Marge makes it clear that it didn't. Next, they all ride their bikes down the street. Despite the trauma leaving scars, they think that with friends, everything can be resolved, and they can have a future ahead of them. The episode ends with aliens complaining that the group of friends overcame the clown. They plan the next dark moment of their lives and believe they won't be able to overcome the strangers. Thanks for watching. See you in the next videos. And in today's episode, we'll see a compilation of Treehouse of Horror and The Simpsons, featuring a series of supernatural stories. Maggie turns into a demon, a mission to rescue Milhouse from another dimension, the spirit of dead Homer trying out new bodies, and Selma finding a different kind of love. The episode begins with Marge in labor, while Dr. Julius is helping her deliver the baby. As soon as the child is born, it is discovered to be a boy. When Homer arrives to celebrate the birth of a girl, he is disappointed to have had a boy.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
What? Another boy?
So, the doctor tries to help solve the problem by asking if they want to take a girl home, even though this is not the usual procedure. He explains that the girl lost her mother during childbirth. The doctor warns them that the girl's tests came back positive for evil. Soon, the little girl starts using her power to destroy the doctor. Even though Homer sees everything up close, he still decides to take her, believing that having a girl is better than having a boy.
Still better than a boy.
Back home, Marge shows Maggie's room and the toy shelf. Maggie uses her power to make all the dolls turn their heads. Next, we see Homer putting up a Nemo poster in Maggie's room and starting to caress her while talking about how she resembles Nemo. Looking at the poster's reflection in the mirror, he decides to put another one on top. However, Maggie doesn't let him and destroys the poster with her gaze. This makes Homer wonder if it was a good idea to have switched the children at the hospital. On Maggie's birthday, she pushes away a baby approaching her just with her look. Later, we see that she forced Jimbo and his friends to jump from a tower. Seeing this, Flanders starts saying he needs to eliminate Maggie. But upon seeing the influence she had over his children, he begins saying he will need 3 graves. Flanders takes Maggie to an altar, and just as he was preparing to do what he said, Marge and Homer enter the place, asking him to stop. However, Flanders explains that Maggie carried the mark of the beast and shows it, making Marge nervous, not knowing what to do. To everyone's surprise, Maggie floats and starts destroying the ceiling of the place, hitting the bodies of Marge, Homer, and Flanders. It's the 80s and the kids are gathered in the treehouse playing video games until they lose a round of the ET game and decide it's time to leave. As they say goodbye, Milhouse sings while riding his bike home, but he ends up being captured by a monster, leaving his bike riding alone.
I shall get back safely. Dang, I never get to finish my safely song.
At home, Kirk is focused on his new device until Luan arrives, saying that Milhouse still hasn't come home and it's already late. At first, Kirk doesn't care, but then he looks at the clock and starts freaking out about his son's absence, even breaking the wall trying to find him. The police go to where Milhouse's bike was found and start looking for clues while everyone in town watches. Meanwhile, at home, Kirk creates a wall with the alphabet so if his son is in another dimension, he can communicate with him. But nothing happens and Luan believes their son might actually be gone. She takes the opportunity to tell Kirk that she's having an affair.
Oh, is it Milhouse's breakdancing tutor? Did you tell him yet?
As they argue about it, the panel starts to work and a cry for help is heard. However, Kirk doesn't pay attention because he's now focused on finishing the argument. At home, Lisa gets a call from Milhouse asking if she likes him. She explains that she does, but she's not in love, and he hangs up pretending it was a wrong number. Later, Lisa goes to the Rats Mall. When she enters the arcade, she says Milhouse is alive and she believes he's in another dimension. But Bart is the first to not care until he gets a message from Milhouse. Everyone goes to Professor Frink's lab, and the professor explains that they can access the other dimension by entering a sensory deprivation tank. So Lisa arrives with her head shaved after a haircut mistake and decides to enter the tank. Inside the tank, she reaches the upside down. Looking around, she sees Milhouse stuck in some branches, and after freeing him, he tells her that the reason he didn't leave is because of the monsters living in that dimension. After that, some monsters appear and one even attacks Milhouse, leaving him with only one leg.
Just hold still and they can't see you. See? We are perfectly... No, I forgot we're not supposed to talk either.
As the two start running through the place, Lisa realizes that it is actually a distorted version of reality. They keep running, and when they encounter monsters along the way, they end up hiding in a school bus. Inside, Lisa reveals she has psychic powers and uses them to destroy the bus and the surrounding monsters. However, now they are exposed, and more monsters appear until Homer arrives and destroys them all. When Lisa tries to talk to her dad, he doesn't care and just says he's working. After destroying more monsters, Homer explains that Mr. Burns had opened a dimension that released monsters in an attempt to find more monsters. But Homer says they are now safe, and after destroying the monster that swallowed Lenny, he reveals that it's time to play, as they are all trapped in that dimension forever. Hearing this, Lisa freaks out, but they discover that it has everything they need, including Amazon delivery, and things are cheaper. Later, at home, Homer is gathered with his family, who are fine since at least they don't have a stupid neighbor. But a monster Flanders appears, and Homer gets scared and burns him. Homer is with his friends watching a game, and everyone shouts that the quarterback choked. While yelling loudly, Homer ends up choking on a hot dog that was thrown. causing his soul to leave his body, and he ends up in heaven. In heaven, Homer receives his membership card, and after hearing a joke from the receptionist that he doesn't like, he sends the receptionist down. Then Homer looks around and says he didn't expect heaven to look like this. At that moment, a man arrives and explains that heaven was sold to Google. This man gets an alert on his device and says something is wrong because Homer wasn't supposed to go to heaven yet and he needs to go back. Homer gets excited and says he wants to go back to Marge and to eat the lasagna that's in his fridge. But the man explains that it's impossible because Homer's body condition wouldn't allow it, showing all the states his body was in after his death.
Ah, wait, that's the before picture. Here's the after picture. And here's the way after picture.
But the man has an idea to send Homer back in another body. Homer asks to be in a pig's body, but it is denied. Then, all the options of people he could return as are shown. And finally, Homer manages to choose one. Marge is sad while looking at a photo of Homer until her doorbell rings and a football player appears at her door. He starts saying that he's Homer, but in another body. After proving he is indeed Homer, Marge happily hugs him. At night, the two are in the bedroom, while Homer admires his new body in the mirror. Marge looks at him. They go to make love, but Marge says it's strange kissing her husband in another person's body. However, when she touches his belly, she quickly changes her mind, and they get together. The next morning, Marge wakes up very happy, but when she sees Homer beside her, she is disappointed that he managed to ruin that body in just one night. Then the whole family gathers and helps Homer choose who he will be now. Bart manages to convince his dad to use Chalmers' body, and Marge agrees. Now at school, Homer calls Skinner into his office and orders that from now on, Bart only gets excellent grades. Bart takes the opportunity to ask Homer for something, and then Homer makes Skinner do what Bart wanted.
Give yourself a purple nurple. Purpler. Purpler.
This is pure indigo.
He said purpler.
During dinner, the family is at Chalmers' house, and Homer wishes to make a toast to his new job until he decides to open his paycheck to see how much he earns. As soon as he sees it, he decides to go to another body. Now Homer is snoring on the couch when Marge pokes him with a broom handle and says this story is going too far, telling him to choose a body so she can stay with him for the rest of her life. Homer says he already knows which body it will be. In the next scene, we see the couple united, and we discover that the body Homer chose was Moe's, and Marge reveals that it's not as strange as she thought it would be. One day at work, while Selma complains about being fired along with her colleague pretends to be deaf just to avoid talking to Selma. Feeling down, Selma decides to go out for a smoke and hides in the lab near a tank. Then a voice introduces itself as Kang the Conqueror, and Selma says she's available. The two start smoking cigarettes together and spending more time together until a monster appears, and Kang decides to barbecue it. Selma and Kang start dating, but she soon interrupts their moment, saying her sister had warned that he might be with her just to eat her or for some other similar interest. But Kang says two of those things are ridiculous. Soon, Mr. Burns enters the lab and announces that he will dissect Kang that night. Selma, who was hiding, says she needs to save him and decides to call Homer, saying she wants to go to another galaxy. Quickly, Homer shows up to help her. In the late afternoon, Homer arrives with a truck to rescue the slimy alien. As they leave the plant, they run into Burns, who wants to know what is going on. Homer tries to stall, but ends up asking the alien for help. As soon as he scares Burns, they all manage to escape. While fleeing, Burns shows up with a team and tries to hit the van they are in, but it doesn't work because one of his shooters misunderstands Burns' command. Inside the van, Kang announces that they will meet his companion, leaving Selma confused, but after he explains, she understands. Upon arriving at the planned location, Kang talks to his companion, but suddenly a lot of gunfire erupts when Burns' troops arrive at the scene. Selma announces she has been hit. Kang holds her and uses a mechanical hand to take out everyone around, then heals Selma, making her happy, and she smokes to celebrate.
Kang, I've been hit.
However, Kang warns that it might be time for her to cut down on smoking. Then, Kang reveals that he is pregnant. At this moment, Patty arrives and begs Selma not to leave, saying that she and Kang are very different. Soon, Kang's friend appears, and Patty becomes interested in him, and they become a couple. Thus, everyone leaves for another planet on a spaceship. Ending the episode, we see the couples on the original planet of the slimy aliens. They ask if the women are enjoying the planet for their honeymoon, but the women complain that they came during a very hot season. The aliens then respond that this is actually the coldest season on the planet and offer them coats. Selma complains more, and this irritates Kang, causing him to complain back at her. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos.
Je t'aime.
Hold that thought. It's midnight.
On le même travail.
I know what you're
stupide.
saying. This marriage is incredible. No man compares to me. I love you so much.
Écoutez-moi.
Huh?
The episode starts with Lisa practicing her speech about artificial intelligence until she gets distracted by a boy's voice trying to organize things in the stadium. Soon, she realizes the boy is Nelson and starts shouting for him, wanting to know what he's been up to since 4th grade. But he just says he tried sushi and didn't like it.
What have you been doing since 4th grade?
Very little. I tried sushi. Didn't like it. That's about it.
Next, Lisa and Nelson are sitting near the bleachers. When the band interrupts them while practicing their music, Lisa asks them to leave because she needs privacy. Then, Lisa starts talking about how beautiful the shooting stars are and explains that she was practicing a speech because she's the final speaker for her class. When she asks Nelson what he does for a living, he says he just moves heavy stuff. Seeing the disappointment on Lisa's face, he explains it's not much, and Lisa remembers her obsession with correcting people and wants to help Nelson. She leans towards him, making him unsure what to do. So he changes the subject, asking if she wants to see where he lives.
If anything heavy at school needs pushing, I push it. Ha ha!
Later, Nelson takes Lisa to his house on his motorcycle, and she finds out he lives in a tower. And to live there, all he has to do is ring the bell at 3 o'clock. They eat pizza, and Lisa asks why Nelson moved away with his family after 4th grade. He explains his reasons for moving and says he eventually just punched his house, breaking it down, and they left.
Punched my house goodbye. Left for who knows where.
Okay, I've got to be honest.
Then, Lisa tells Nelson that his problems are drawing her in and that things would get better if he made an awkward compliment. He does, and they continue talking about the past, with Lisa revealing she used to get shaky legs when she heard Nelson's laugh. The sun starts to rise, and Nelson comments on it. Then he asks if Lisa is dating someone. She gets embarrassed and starts making up details about her boyfriend. But to her surprise, Bart shows up and asks if she's looking for a boyfriend. Lisa quickly interrupts him and starts talking about Nelson. When Nelson sees Bart, he asks for his lunch money. Even though Bart doesn't take Nelson's threat seriously, he ends up giving the money. After telling Lisa about a dinner, Bart pretends to leave by putting on an invisibility cloak. However, Lisa notices and, after complaining, gets Bart to actually leave.
Give me your rent money. Also kidding. But if you want to give me some money, I'll take it. Okay. Thanks, man.
As soon as Bart leaves, Lisa starts talking about how beautiful the view is. She reminisces about the time when they liked each other, and Nelson says he kind of remembers. Then, Lisa starts wondering if he didn't think this was one of those moments in life when everything could change. But Nelson interrupts the mood by remembering his duty and goes to ring the bell, which annoys Lisa because the noise ruins the atmosphere. Soon after, they hear a conversation below, and Bart tells his mom that he found Lisa with a boy who used to beat him up when they were kids. Homer then says he always liked that boy and asks Lisa to come down from the tower because this was the only time he could leave the prison he was in due to the debts he incurred to pay for Lisa's college. So she decides to come down from the tower and tells Nelson she will call him later.
You know they only let me out of debtor's prison for a half a day?
The scene changes to Lisa giving her final speech at college, as she tells everyone to throw their caps so they fall like diplomas. It happens. In the audience, Marge talks about being proud of Lisa for being the only Simpson to graduate from college. Just then, Bart arrives and Marge questions him about missing Lisa's speech. He explains that he's been hearing Lisa practice that speech for 22 years. When he mentions all the phrases in the speech, Homer says he got it right. Later, everyone is in front of the college, and Nelson rings the bell from the top of the tower, watching the activity below. Lisa is now in the car with her family, heading to the big city, and her dad says he has an important piece of advice for her, but just tells her that police horses don't like to share food. On the way, Lisa asks to stop the car, and as she looks at the bell being rung, she starts wondering how her life would be in a different reality, being with Nelson. But she realizes it would be frustrating because she probably would never have an apartment with him and would have to live her whole life in the tower with the bell. After thinking it all over, she gives up on the idea and asks her dad to drive a melancholic pace, and everything contributes to her having her perfect sad moment.
I know what you're saying. This marriage is incredible. No man compares to me. I love you so much.
Écoutez-moi.
Huh?
Now, Homer has to narrate what happened after that day. 5 years have passed, and since then, Lisa had never seen Nelson again, until one day, on a train car, Lisa talks about her partner who was on the cover of a magazine, but she is interrupted by a strong woman pushing a man and accusing him of stealing the car. The man keeps denying it, but the woman reveals she has several cameras in the car, so he decides to admit guilt, opens the train door to jump and fly away, but is stopped by Nelson, who is on the roof of the train. Nelson grabs him and brings him inside.
Flying squirrel! Oh!
Gotcha!
Don't forget, every squirrel has a tail. Like...
After catching the thief, Lisa recognizes Nelson and asks if he is now a cop. He denies it and explains that he is a bounty hunter. The strong woman introduces herself as his angel and says her name is Rot. Nelson then explains that Lisa is an old childhood friend and mentions that they went to the same school as the principal they caught earlier for removing the mattress tag. Then, Lisa starts talking about the last time they saw each other. When her partner asks about that night, she sweetly says that they talked all night until they saw the sunrise, and she says it with a happy face. Her partner doesn't like it, stands up, and introduces himself to Rod as Hubert. Nelson asks how he is, and Hubert reveals that he has been waiting for this moment since the 2nd grade when Nelson used to bully him. Hubert starts bragging about getting what Nelson wanted most, which was Lisa. She reveals that Hubert proposed to her on the moon, but Rot finds the story boring and starts telling how she met Nelson.
Marry me, written in the sands of the Sahara Desert.
Then, the two show their affection for each other, which bores Lisa. She asks for a drink, and Rod invites her to go drink whiskey. Meanwhile, Hubert is surprised that Lisa once liked Nelson. When Nelson tries to hide it, Hubert tries to embarrass him by asking about his mom's job. After getting an answer, he asks about Nelson's dad, which starts to irritate him. Nelson ends up doing one of his childhood cruelties. When Lisa returns with Rot, she sees what her fiancé is doing and starts arguing with Nelson for behaving that way. After saying that she believed for a moment he could have changed, she gives up and decides to leave with Hubert.
He wedged me. My Person of the Year status didn't protect me at all.
Another 5 years pass, and now Lisa is looking at her phone until Nelson appears in front of her and makes suggestions, revealing he had a minor surgery. After a demonstration, he apologizes for what he did to Hubert and asks how they are. Lisa repeatedly says they are great and then says his business is also doing well. They watch a commercial for Hubert's company, and at the end, Lisa asks how Nelson and Rod are. Nelson tries to pretend they are fine, but eventually reveals they broke up. Lisa then reveals she also broke up with Hubert and moves closer to Nelson. They go to a cafe, and Nelson explains that he and Rot split up because of a fight. She was in a fight club and hadn't told him. Then, he says he doesn't want to talk about other women anymore and is tired of seeing Lisa every 5 years, wanting to see her more often. Lisa also says she would like to get to know him better, and they connect through a cable, starting to see how their life would be together from childhood to the present. When they return to reality and are about to kiss, suddenly, Hubert appears all disheveled, calling for Lisa.
Lisa! Lisa!
After getting himself together, Hubert asks to get back with Lisa, but she refuses. Hubert then explains that he has improved because therapy fixed all his flaws. He says he will beg, but she tries to think of a reason to go back to him. Hubert explains that with his company, she could achieve all her dreams she wrote about in her 2nd grade project. Lisa is impressed that he kept that project for so long and starts questioning what she should do. Nelson, remembering something, says she should follow her dreams just like she said at the end of her graduation speech. Lisa is impressed that he remembers her speech, but Hubert dismisses it, saying Nelson only remembered one line while he has the whole speech. With that, Lisa decides to stay with Hubert, as he is showing a side she had never seen before. 4 months later, Lisa and Nelson receive a call from their best friends who are getting married. In the middle of the night, both of their phones ring, inviting them to be the best man and maid of honor at their friend's wedding. They accept the invitation and, after hanging up, comment on the couple's luck.
So, can I count on you?
Sure.
She's so lucky.
Then, the wedding day arrives. Nelson and Lisa walk in together as a couple, and during the entrance, they argue about her leaving even though Nelson was the one who told her to follow her dreams. During the ceremony, it's time for the couple's vows. Sophie says in her speech that she chose Jimbo because he never hid and always showed who he really was. These words make Lisa reflect, but she tries to convince herself that she made the right choice by choosing Hubert because he loved her. When it's Jimbo's turn to speak, his words shake Nelson, who ends up running away from the altar. Lisa goes after Nelson.
You are the smartest, sweetest, funniest person I've ever met. I'll never have a life.
Nelson.
The episode ends with Lisa reaching the church door when Nelson sees her. He asks why she came outside and comments about the cold. He takes off his jacket and gives it to Lisa. She starts explaining that she came out because she loves Nelson, but he says that's not good because he usually hurts people. Lisa tells him she has always liked him since the night they spent in the tower watching the sunrise together. She continues saying that no matter where she goes, she always ends up coming back to him. Nelson tries to convince her it's not a good idea, but Lisa just hugs him. Then, they kiss. Meanwhile, Milhouse is ringing the bell and celebrating the fact that even though he lost Lisa, at least he got the bell. Thanks for watching. See you in the next videos.